X gonna give it to you. I have a question. Is it still beating a dead horse if the horse is alive? If it's a CPU mineable coin, you just steal the hash rate. You don't buy CPUs. Will videos on Twitter now be called X videos? If all of the GPU infrastructure is currently not set up to basically mine the coin, is that really a viable option for saving GPU mining? Remember when doxed developers were considered a bad thing, not a good thing in the crypto space? Remember when ASIC resistant algorithms were popular because people believed in decentralization and not number go up? Remember when privacy coins didn't have VC funding? Hey Yeti, welcome to the stream. Remember when it was less common for a pool to have 51% of the network hash rate than more common? Oh, that's a good question. Did the move from proof of work to proof of stake from Ethereum kill the entire cryptocurrency market? Let's do this shit. Hello and welcome everyone to the Crypto Mining Show, your one-stop shop for all cryptocurrency news from the perspective of a cryptocurrency miner. I go by Blind Run on the internet and Matthew in real life, and today we're going to be talking about, well, not just news articles. We're kind of moving away from that. That's being covered on the daily shows. The blocks episodes that I do Monday through Friday, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. That time may be moving to 11 a.m. if I can wake up early enough. I've just been extremely tired from the day job, so I don't always get all of those videos ready to release at 11 a.m. However, I do know they would help the channel out if I did do that, so I'm going to strive to start trying to hit an 11 a.m. mark, prep as much as I can the night before, get up early and cover some stuff and then put it out. So that's where primarily all the articles are going to be covered. Cover mainly broader topics now on the Crypto Mining Show here, and that is because I want to do some more in-depth stuff talking about kind of more of what's going on with the networks and a general overview, specifically as it pertains to proof of work. Obviously today, I mean, the big topic, like is stated, we're going to talk about Dynex and its recent move up in the Hive-on statistics chart, and kind of take a look at where that's headed, especially with the new all-time highs on that particular network, because this is still, you know, this channel was built from GPU mining. And we'll talk a little bit about why GPU mining is still important too. Ignore the background noise. We do got kiddos running around back here, so I apologize for that. But it is what it is. Actually, I don't apologize for it. I'm just going to let you know that that is going on back there. We're also going to be talking about Ironfish and the 72% of unknown hash rate going on there. I'm going to give you guys my reasoning behind why I think it is FPGA or ASICs and why I think it is not, in fact, GPUs, per, of course, the discussion and arguments that are going on in their mining Discord channel. And we are also going to talk about some potential changes that they could make, why and why not, and that those changes may be made, etc. We're also going to be talking about Alephium and its huge disparity in hash rate on hero miners. Unfortunately, that is just kind of the nature of the beast. We're going to try to take a look at that. We're also going to be taking a closer look now that we have more specifications on the new Filecoin miner from Bitmain, because frankly, the fact of the matter is it is an extreme disappointment, way overpriced, and basically a piece of shit. So I would not recommend it, but we'll talk about why, and we'll talk about some other options that you could look into. Let's get into all of that and more right after a word from today's sponsor. Today's sponsor is BT Miners. BT Miners has been a long-time sponsor of the channel and a proven reliable source for ASIC miners. If you're looking to purchase ASIC hardware from Bitcoin to Dogecoin miners, they are available for purchase on bt-miners.com. BT Miners is a trusted source by both ASICminervalue.com and cryptominer.com. Follow the affiliate link in the description and tell them SOT sent you to support the channel. All right, and welcome back. So we have one crypto news article to cover today, and it really pertains to the U.S. mining market and specifically Arkansas. There's some interesting stuff going on here. Arkansas counties rushed to pass noise regulations for crypto miners. Several counties in the U.S. state of Arkansas are hurrying to adopt new ordinances before August, when crypto mining facilities will be subject to the same rules as data centers. Several counties in the U.S. state of Arkansas are rushing to pass emergency legislations allowing them to control noise and other activities related to crypto mining before a new state law comes into effect on August 1st, according to a local media report. The new state law brings crypto mining facilities under the same regulations applied to data centers, creating guidelines for miners and protecting them from discriminatory regulations and taxes. So it's kind of interesting because when we read the article headline, it sounds negative towards crypto mining, right? Because it's saying, you know, we're going to put regulations in for the crypto mining noise complaints. But really, when we dig into this, it does sound like this is an overall net positive, protecting from discriminatory regulations and taxes, which means that we won't be seeing the same things like we've seen in Washington state, where we see crypto mining classifying themselves as data centers to avoid the crypto mining taxes being applied to their electricity bills. So that won't be a problem in Arkansas. This is definitely one on the map that I'm going to mark for maybe a potential move over to, if things keep going the way they go in Texas, surrounding, of course, the power situations. Residents of Arkansas, however, barely had time to discuss the new legislation, which was proposed, discussed in committees, and passed by legislators within a week from March 30th to April 7th. State Representative Rick McClure, who authored the bill, reportedly said that no one spoke against this bill in committees or on the legislative floors. Crypto mining companies in Arkansas include Green Digital, GMI Computing, United Bit Engine, and Cryptic Farms. Local authorities are enacting more rules to address complaints of excessive noise 24 hours a day. Quote, "I don't have any issues with crypto mining, but just the noise level, the lack of care for our neighbors," end quote, said Chris Kendrick, Justice of the Peace on Faulkner County's Quorum Court during a July meeting. And I think this is a completely valid argument. Now, ideally, you want to have some sort of an ability to have home miners, but that's really what GPU mining is for at the end of the day. And a resurgence of that would be fantastic. I understand the massive difference between mining in a home with some GPU miners that are maybe open air frame compared to a massive ASIC farm right next to my house. I would have a problem with that as well. And that comes from someone that had basically ASICs and stuff running in a 150 square foot bedroom, and it did impact the sleeping health of the entire family. And I can tell you that's not a great idea. So having regulations surrounding that, you know, puts it in an area or a space that is further away from residential properties makes sense to me. I don't think I have any issues with that. After the bill passed, the Association of Arkansas's Counties developed a model ordinance that counties can use before the law takes effect. Since June, more than a dozen counties have reportedly passed noise ordinances that target data centers. Quote, "I also want to make the point that it's not these people stepping out on a front porch and not being able to enjoy a glass of tea and sitting on the back porch. These people can hear the sound 24/7 from their bedrooms," end quote. Justice of the Peace reportedly Marie Coates said. Despite not completely prohibiting county regulations, the new legislation prohibits local governments from discriminating against crypto mining facilities on or from limiting decibel levels, quote, "other than the limits set for sound pollution generally," end quote, which I think is completely reasonable. Counties are also forbidden from rezoning areas with, quote, "the intent or effect of discriminating against," end quote, "digital mining operations." I think that as far as like sound ordinances go, if you have them applied to data centers, you can apply them to cryptocurrency mining operations. It makes sense. That's my thought on it. I'd like to hear your thoughts and opinions on it. Overall, it seems like a net positive, specifically on the regulations and taxes front of things, preventing, essentially power companies from discriminatory actions and price hikes on cryptocurrency miners in particular. I'd like to see a world in which more power companies and co-ops, etc., work directly with crypto miners to have a mutually beneficial situation, which a lot have, and that's really the path forward, I think, for everyone moving, obviously, into the future of cryptocurrency mining. Now, the big topic for today, of course, is GPU mining. As everyone is aware, ETH moved to proof of stake in September of last year. And it's been extremely difficult for GPU miners. Most miners have shut off. According to Hivon officials or Hivon employees that I've spoken with, most of these rigs have remained basically undeleted at the very least from Hive OS farms, and do come in and check in for, heartbeats every once in a while, meaning a lot of GPU miners have turned off but have not sold out yet. So we do have a lot of GPUs that are still on the market. This is both a positive and a negative for the industry. On one hand, of course, it means that there are a ton of GPUs ready to turn on and provide security to any new networks that are available. And that can be a massive positive for the cryptocurrency industry as a whole. In fact, if you wanted the quickest adoption rate, in my humble opinion, for any cryptocurrency, you would release a solid project that is ASIC resistant and ready for GPUs. On the other hand, the problem for the actual miners themselves is any new coin that is somewhat profitable and pops up on any of the mining calculators will immediately have more GPUs than are really sustainable by any new network, meaning that basically there's no profitability there. And it's not dissimilar from the ASIC Bitcoin mining market at this point, as far as the competition really comes down to how cheap of power can you get, for how long can you get that contract, and, every penny counts per kilowatt hour. You're going to need to pay attention to additional taxes and additional fees, etc., and keep that price low. I mean, that's really what it comes down to being competitive. And that does mean that you force out a lot of GPU miners in general. However, there is some light at the end of the tunnel as we start to see some new projects that are, adding into the options for mining with GPUs. Leftovers, of course, not to be amiss, would be something like Flux or Ravencoin or Ergo, right? As they are GPU mineable and relatively, at the end of the day, ASIC resistant, ASIC proof. Can't ever have proof, of course. Resistance is the key term here. The biggest player that's really come out of all of this, out of new releases of coins, has been Dynex on the GPU front because of its proof of useful work nature. And what this means is essentially the work that's being done for the solvers, etc., on Dynex prevent any sort of ASICs or FPGAs from coming onto the network. Theoretically, in the future, I presume FPGAs could do a certain amount of workload, but I highly doubt that that'll be the focus, and it would probably be pretty difficult as they add different workloads to Dynex. So maybe not worth it for the FPGA guys. It gives it a sort of advantage here, definitely. Now, I do also want to mention before I'm amiss, just so that everybody's clear, Ergo does have private bit streams that are available, and they are more efficient than GPUs on the Ergo network. So Autolicos does have that impending kind of possibility on it if it does come to the point to where Ergo is beneficial for them to mine. So there is that threat. Right now, that threat is really targeted at coins that are easier to make bit streams for, i.e. Radiant, Ironfish, Lithium. Kaspa is already moving on to ASICs, but those are some that come to the top of my mind right away. Nexa more than likely will have this problem here in the near future too, because Nexa is going to be as we discovered in the interview with the developers, is going to be migrating to an ASIC specific algorithm, an algorithm that's actually created specifically for ASICs, along with a partnership to deploy those ASICs. So Nex is not really your answer either. We're talking about sustainable, long-term GPU mineable projects here, and there just frankly isn't a lot, right? Now, in a big turn of events here, today, or actually, I believe, yes, today, we just had Dynex cross into second place on Hivon statistics for the amount of hash rate on GPUs. And you can see here it's 11%. There is still Kaspa taking first place at 14%. But, you know, the thing that's going to be happening here over August and September is the Bitmain deployment of the KS3s, which will be the ASIC for the Kaspa network. And as those ASICs come out, it's going to get significantly, exponentially more difficult to mine Kaspa, and GPUs will go the way of the dinosaurs. In a lot of cases, the FPGAs will as well. And there's some strategies here in particular that I think some of the FPGA companies are utilizing on things like Ironfish and Alephium that you want to pay attention to as well, because what is going to happen is essentially what has been happening currently with the FPGA market on the Kaspa side of things, right? This pump and dump that we had, and then the pump back up here leading into the ASIC market. That's probably going to all be repeated on these other networks, but it's going to be a lot more affecting on something like Ironfish. We'll talk about that here in a little bit, but this is really good news for Dynex. What we will see is an increase of hash rate on Dynex over time, and we are starting to see, you know, basically price appreciation for this. It's not dissimilar from what we saw on Kaspa with price appreciation due to the cost to mint a coin from GPUs on the first pump. So this could be a very good move to, or a very good result for Dynex in general, meaning that Dynex will take the top of the chart here. And as you all know, the GPU market for mining does influence a ton of adoption. And I think this is something that a lot of coin developers miss. I think specifically probably like Ironfish missed a lot more than they really anticipated on this as well, which once again, Ironfish coming up in all of the examples of what not to do, but we'll talk more about that in a second. When you have a GPU coin that is mineable and profitable at higher electricity rates or residential rates, what you have is the ability for it to be adopted a lot quicker. And that adoption rate disperses out, of course, the total volume or the liquidity to more participants, meaning you have more activity on the network, which in general just means that you have wider spread adoption, which means you have more people talking about it on crypto Twitter, more people talking about it on YouTube, and naturally you start to have that FOMO in, and then you get those outside participants that are just purchasing the coin, and that spirals up. Dynex is really in a fantastic position here to take advantage of that, in my humble opinion, moving into this, because I think what's going to happen is these ASICs are going to come out. Everybody's going to look at what's most profitable and sustainable, right? Because we could talk about other coins that pop up on hashrate.no, like Pepe Proof of Work, Sky Doge, this type of thing, that are essentially at the end of the day, don't have the liquidity in exchanges. And I think it will take a little bit longer for Dynex to build that liquidity up in exchanges and so on, but it does seem to be in a better position overall. So I am very positive on Dynex's future. And because of the nature of the way that it functions, here's the other thing that we have to discuss. Because Dynex is a little bit unique in the fact that it is proof of useful work, but it doesn't require the amount of hardware upgrades that something like Flux does for proof of useful work. So if in this particular case, under my understanding, when we talk about adoption from GPU miners, we're talking about a bunch of miners that have rigs shut off that are structured in a manner to mine traditional cryptocurrencies with GPUs, which means that they don't have high-powered CPUs, lots of memory, and lots of storage on them. And that hurts the adoption of proof of useful work if you are having to apply those particular specifications. Miners, specifically GPU miners that are turned off right now, need to be able to turn on and turn on to a network easily without upgrading up front and deploying a bunch of capital. And if we're talking about the companies that, or the larger GPU farms that are deploying a lot of capital for proof of useful work, most of them are even completely shifting off because of regulatory changes, etc., like we talked about earlier, into just high-powered computing in the case of things like Hut 8, etc., Hive, and whatnot. So all of those, you know, they're kind of not even moving into proof of useful work. They're just going straight AI because a private party rental of those rigs makes more sense when you've deployed that much capital for them. And they get better regulations as far as being classified as a data center compared to an ASIC market. So that's kind of my thoughts behind it as to why Dynex is in a unique position here. It is yet to be seen what kind of impact version 23 is going to have on the network. I assume a net positive unless there's some sort of chain breaking changes that end up coming along with that, but that will be coming out here soon. For those of you that have a lot of 3070s, I think there's some good news as far as adding more workloads to Dynex is going to bring the disparity between, you know, larger VRAM capacities down or a little bit more closer. So I think 3070s have a chance here at also performing better on Dynex with the new release, but that of course is yet to be confirmed. And if it has a smooth launch, then I think it'll be pretty good. That being said, there are still, you know, the good old boys on Ravencoin sitting here. I'm not sure that I'm confident in Ravencoin having a huge pump up to, you know, be the savior of GPU mining. Same with, you know, like I said, unfortunately, Nexa is planned to go to ASICs, but in the interim, I suppose there's that. You got Ergo, which, like I said, does have private bit streams. If it does become profitable enough to where FPGA developers, bitstream developers, it catches their eye to where it's more and more beneficial, I think you'll see more and more FPGAs get deployed to that network. And it'll be more transparent, hopefully too, in conjunction with that. But we'll have to see. Alephium, obviously going to be under attack from FPGAs. It's Blake 3 along with Ironfish, even though they're slightly different versions of Blake 3. It just is what it is. And that's really it on this top 10. And or not even more than the top 10, but that's pretty much it on this though. There's not a lot of options for GPU mining. So when I say like what's my best bet for a savior for GPU mining, it does appear to be Dynex, which is extremely surprising because it has not been out that long. You know, we're less than a year into it, and it's a big mover and shaker. And with the adoption of GPU miners, the participation goes up, and this could end up looking really, really good for a lot of people. And that's kind of my bet as far as if I had to take a bet on what's going to be profitable here, and what has the chance to really save a lot of at-home GPU miners. I think Dynex is kind of the play. I think right now, though, there is still, you know, this is the problem that's been happening on almost every single proof of work coin, every single smaller proof of work coin out right now. And that is, you know, miners hunting so hard for profitability that they are kind of damaging a lot of these networks. You can see here that Ecopool has 64% of the known hash rate for Dynex. And this is extremely dangerous due to, you know, potential 51% attacks, double spend attacks through that, of course, all that sort of thing. And not only that, though, but also the distribution of the work, right? So a majority of the distribution of, or all distribution of work for Dynex go through Malab endpoints. In this particular case, when we're talking about Ecopool, because people are mining the Ecopool, they are also hitting the Ecopool malab endpoint, which means that a majority of the work is being dispersed through Ecopool there. So basically 2 points of centralization failure sitting on Ecopool and kind of sitting on the shoulder. So I highly encourage everyone to pick a different pool, you know, and it could be any of them, but try to spread this out. I realize that that does mean that you end up having a pretty sketchy position on finding blocks or not as many blocks, and that can be a little bit rough. But you know, you got to do what's best for the network here, especially as GPU miners. We need to be responsible to the best of our ability, so pay attention to that. It just move to a different pool if you can. So I know that a couple more pools came out. You know, we got Mining for People came out. I think right now they have a 0% fee. This is the one that I would probably take a look at if you guys are looking for another pool, just because you have those 0% fees for that promo right now to kind of spin it up. So that's a good option. I do want to see, you know, what some of y'all's thoughts are. I know that we've talked, I've seen a lot of people, you know, that question the validity of Dynex. Some people want doxing of the team. I am personally against doxing of teams for cryptocurrencies. So I don't agree with that. I never have. That is something that's been new, I think, more recently. You know, the 2016 to the 2016 to 2018 crowd, it was definitely technically considered a negative to see doxing, because that did usually mean that the focus was on the individual developers and their careers and not as much on the project itself. There is the anonymity aspect of cryptocurrency that I think is supposed to be upheld to a certain extent from the fundamental side. That doesn't mean that every blockchain that is fully doxed is bad. It just means from a pure fundamentalist standpoint on cryptocurrency, I don't see not being doxed as a negative. That's how I see it. There are some, you know, concerns I think I have, and a few other people have shared it with Dynex, specifically surrounding the distribution of work and the distribution of the types of work. And it does appear, because of the minor releases and the way we can see drastic shifts in the hash rate between minor releases, that the type of work is very, very important within Dynex, okay? And as it relates to profitability, because if there is a type of work that is less profitable and you're working on that problem, but then there's a miner over here that is basically filtering the work for the easier work, there's some manipulation there that can take place, and there's not enough transparency in that. That doesn't require doxing of the developers. That requires transparency of what kind of work is going on and how that is being actually dispersed to the miners themselves. So I think from that perspective, there's some stuff that moving forward needs to be handled. Obviously, initially with only one malab endpoint at one point in time, that was a huge concern, but Dynex has started to resolve that. They are working with mining pools to have more malab endpoints. So that has, you know, there is work in actually getting that part of the project decentralized. So I think that the work is being done, and from what I can tell, and it's moving forward, and it's looking extremely promising. I do have some issues with Ironfish. We're going to talk about Ironfish too here, because thanks for the super chat, Chadwick. So as far as so let's get the rundown on Ironfish. So Ironfish is a Blake 3 algorithm. It's supposed to be a privacy coin. It has very heavy VC funding and a pre-sale that was part of that. We did cover all of that, so you can go over it. Ironfish is not something I've been a fan of from the very get-go, right? I've been very clear about that. It's like, well, you know, obviously right off the bat, a majority of these funds were under pre-sale. And even after everything is mined, you're still talking about a majority of that, or not a majority of that, sorry. You're still talking about nearly 20% of the total volume being handled by either or given to either a dev or some pre-sale function there. I don't think that that belongs in a privacy coin. But, you know, from the profitability standpoint and the success of a project, etc., we have to be honest that that's, you know, what Ethereum was as well. So just keep all of that in mind. Now, Ironfish might be dead on arrival as is. So let me do the rundown for you guys to explain this. Because we could say that what is happening on Ironfish now is what happened on Kaspa with FPGAs. Except there's a distinct difference here. And that is in the amount of time we had GPUs on the network versus GPUs on the network for Ironfish. So Kaspa had GPUs on the network for a much longer period of time. And because of the nature of both of these coins being what's known as fast emissions, meaning that they have an extremely quick emission schedule. In the case of Ironfish, it's like only 4 years or something ridiculous like that before a majority of it's mined. You have the problem of if hash rate begins to centralize too quickly, you create market makers from the individuals that have control over a majority of the FPGAs. And as you guys know, with the FPGA market, unfortunately, it's a very tight-knit group. They aren't, you know, distributed as much as GPUs. So it really puts it into a pickle. And where Kaspa is also a very quick emissions, Kaspa had a longer time, right? It had from like October of 2021 through basically somewhere around March or April of this year, something like that. It had a much longer time. Ironfish has not been out for that long. It already is starting to have FPGAs on the network. I'm going to give you the reason for that. And it appears to be taking over about 72% of the network. Due to the fact that we have a quick emissions here, what we have is two problems. One is there's a potential 51% attack basically sitting there ready to go at any time. We don't know if this is all from one farm due to the privacy nature of this network, and we don't know if they're trustworthy, etc. Second to that, if it's just a few farms or one farm, but they have no malicious intent, they can be a market maker and basically manipulate all of the trading going on with Ironfish. So, and if they continue to suck up all of that liquidity, you end up basically having a few actors within the network that are basically control the entire supply of the token. So that puts them in a dangerous position as it sits, and we'll give you guys the kind of the rundown here. Now, this is already a problem, right? We see 62% of the hash rate coming from hero miners. That was because of the giveaway they did. Actually, I'm going to say, like, I understand why hero miners did that so that they could promote a coin and have the most hash rate, etc. But if they wanted to actually support the network, this was probably the worst thing that any pool could ever have done on the launch of a coin, right? And that is because it centralized the hash rate purely from the get-go. Ironfish has had the potential for a 51% attack if hero miners was either had a bad actor working for them or was hacked at any point from the very get-go. Ironfish has been compromised from the perspective of security, right? So that's been a problem, but now we have a bigger problem, right? So this already looks bad, but this is only 493 terahash. There's 1.73 petahash on the network. That is 71% of the blocks are going to an unknown miner, okay? Now, a lot of people were saying in the Discord for this particular discussion that it could be a large GPU miner. However, if we look at the block explorer, we can actually determine that this is probably not the case, and I'll show you why. So you see here, most of these miners are getting essentially they're obfuscated, all right? But if we go into, I think it's like page 2, or we'll scroll down. It might be a little bit further down. I'll have to find an example for you. All pools are denoted by a pool, right? So you'll get basically the pool name in here, like Ironfish Pool. GPU miners, if mining solo, are named, okay? So if it's a developed mining software, SRB miner, whatever it may be, it is denoted in the block being found. If it is a mining pool, it's denoted in the block being found. And what this means, more than likely, is that if we were seeing a large player as a GPU miner, even solo mining, we would still see some indicator that it was a GPU miner, unless it's custom GPU mining software, which is highly unlikely. It is more likely that we have custom ASIC or FPGA software that is then obfuscating all of these blocks that are being found. Right? So that is my reasoning for this more than likely being essentially FPGA or ASICs or a mix of both, than being a large GPU miner. Now, the other question that was brought up, of course, that I did cover here a little bit previously, but I want to make sure you guys understand why that was talked about, the market manipulation, being a market maker for Ironfish, was, well, if it's FPGA or ASICs, why are they not mining kaspa? Well, kaspa is moving into essentially no FPGAs. So this is the reason why I think more than likely we are seeing FPGAs and not ASICs on this particular network. One is the amount of hash rate. Two is that this is probably an FPGA market maker that is prepping supply to be able to be a market maker on exchanges for when everything moves over, or all the rest of the FPGAs move off of essentially kaspa and come on over to Ironfish, because more than likely everything's going to try to move over to Ironfish. That being said, Ironfish has been losing a ton of hash rate. Most of that hash rate obviously has been GPUs over some given time. I've technically been debating and will probably move my FPGAs off of Ironfish and onto like Kyla coin, for example, just because this is just seems like a completely chain at this point. Now, there are two solutions to this. Well, not two solutions. There is one due diligence discovery that can be done for this, right? To see if there's actually a security issue going on here with the hash rate. And then there's a solution, right? So the kind of like information gathering process could be this proposal, which would basically be a governance for permissioned mining nodes. What this would mean is that basically a proposal that until the hash rate is more spaced out, all mining nodes that submit blocks require a basic approval from the Ironfish Foundation. Look, Ironfish is kind of already a joke as a security coin, but if they do this, this is a complete joke. All right. Like, as a security coin, privacy coin, whatever, to force nodes to register to submit blocks is a complete joke. End of story. It is absolutely hilarious that this would be proposed, but of course, Mishra here says that he doesn't, have all of the knowledge. Would it tell us if we have to worry about 50 or more than 51% attack being controlled by a single miner? Yes, it could. That is true. This would be a solution, registration of the nodes. I just don't think that's a good idea. Now, a total solution is a shift in the mining algorithm, okay? And basically, there is discussion going on if they would take, or if they should take Ironfish to an ASIC, an FPGA resistant algorithm, right? This would solve the problem and not require this research or the registering of the nodes, provided there isn't some sort of custom GPU mining software that's being run by some large farm that more than likely, honestly, they're probably doing HPC stuff at this point. So I highly doubt it. it would more than likely solve it, or at least it would answer the question of, you know, if it's GPUs or not. The vote that I did on Twitter shows overwhelming support, but of course, consider the source. We are a GPU mining channel and Twitter account, so everybody's going to vote in favor of shifting the algorithm. There are a couple things that have to be taken into account when shifting the algorithm, of course. One being, you know, is it compatible with the chain from the get-go? I know they got snarks implemented and some stuff like that. And then, you know, I think second to that would be, you know, is there already mining software support or not too, right? So there's a couple things that have to be really figured out there. Obviously, right off the bat, if you think about the easiest way to do this, it would be by deploying ProgPal, progressive proof of work, which, you know, has been around for a while. Oh God, a girl has confirmed that, you know, at this point, there's no FPGAs possible on there. There's no ASICs possible on there. So that would be one that they could move to. Obviously, that comes from Ravencoin. As far as snark support, I'm not completely sure on that. So that would be like ASIC resistant. The other option that I was thinking of for this particular chain is technically they could go with some sort of echo hash that's already supported on ASIC miners that are basically deployed and not profitable right now. And while I'm a GPU miner, first and foremost, and I would say, you know, fork to a GPU mining algorithm. One, I don't think that Ironfish really aligns with the GPU miners in the first place from a fundamental standpoint. Two, if you're looking for something that has, you know, compatibility with snarks and is ready to get, you know, has a bunch of hardware that would potentially be ready to deploy straight to it and is already reasonably decentralized, I think some form of Equihash would make a lot of sense here. So, and it would take care of this problem. There seems to be a timing thing that happens with all of these networks in relation to how long has it been mined on CPU and GPU before it begins to be being mined on an FPGA, and how long the emissions are. So once again, because the emissions were quick, but the length of time on kaspa was long enough to basically distribute enough of the kaspa across smaller GPU miners like myself, etc., it's a little bit more prepared for this move into ASICs because we are already over that 50% mined number. But because we're under that in the case of Ironfish, it's more detrimental. In addition to that, when this initially happened, we sped up the block times a lot. They were down to like 20 seconds, I think, for a little bit. So the initial 32% of the total supply, which is the amount allocated for mining within the first year, has been accelerated significantly, okay? And it could be accelerated even more significantly once we see the FPGAs move off of kaspa and onto things like Ironfish. I'm probably going to say option one, you know, preferred is going to go say, you know, ASIC resistant, try to win the GPU miners, try to win some adoption there and go from there. If I was Ironfish, that's what I would do. Or alternatively, in second place, option two is throw a stick out there for unprofitable Zcash miners, right? And I think that could have a reasonable amount of adoption and also take care of this problem. But, you know, I'm not a blockchain developer by any stretch of the imagination, so there are, you know, compatibility things that behind the scenes that I'm not fully aware of. So that's kind of it. As far as I think we talked about, you know, profitability for Dynex across the board has been pretty good. We still have a few of these that I question a lot. As far as like Sky Doge, up here, And I think, I guess technically we did forget about the NurAI or whatever, NurAI, XNA. I'll just probably call it XNA and Chlor. All these are Kapow though too. So when you open yourself up with that Kapow algorithm, if Ironfish did that, you know, I don't know. I don't know. You can't trust SkyDoge right now. You got the unknown volume here. Radiant, like we talked about, unfortunately, gonna be getting hit pretty hard by FPGAs. We'll probably see that FPGA cycle. Nexa, while a temporary kind of option for GPUs, unfortunately, in the roadmap, moving to ASICs. Alethium, you know, a modified version of Blake 3 or a slightly different version of Blake 3 than Ironfish. So FPGA is definitely coming there. If we talk about Alethium right now too, just every single damn coin in existence right now is basically under threat of being attacked, right? I mean, that's what we're looking at. Alethium, you know, sitting here at 77% of the unknown hash rate going to hero miners. There is an interesting play here though, where we are seeing 22% of the hash rate and the unknown blocks coming in second place to hero miners. So could that be these private FPGAs potentially playing with that? Ironfish may be their preferred just because the VC funding means they're kind of in, like, I suppose, under more pressure to succeed than something like Alethium. But Alethium's definitely experiencing some centralization issues from a hash rate perspective. Hopefully that gets solved. I was going to show you guys, I did forget to pull it up, but I think on Ironfish there is a way we can, oh, this is what I was going to show you guys. So there was a question as to essentially whether or not, is it here? So yeah, so there's a question as to whether or not Ironfish is basically, if the FPGA miner is a single node or multi-node. And if you go to their stats.ironfish, it just got a Grafana board down here, but we can look at outbound traffic, and we do appear to have essentially, I think it was all here. Is this not? It's not. Hold on. Inbound, was it inbound? It's out here. Yeah. We do have essentially this same node app ID. No, it's not this one. It's outbound. Yeah, these top three. Yesterday, this node ID, I tweeted it out, was showing like basically 10x of all the other outbound traffic. It's lower today, but that could also be because of network activity. But it was significantly higher than all the rest. So I do think that there is a possibility of this particular node ID, and maybe they also spread it out. It looks like they did a version update as well, because this node ID was on an older node version yesterday. So it looks like they just upgraded their node version, which means they probably put in a few extras there, or put in a temporary node to mine to and then moved over here. Definitely a possibility when they did the upgrade. But that's something to take a look at as far as distribution, and if that traffic's going through that node, there is potential to say, hey, like, look, more than likely it's just this single node, which means it's probably a single miner, right? Or a single few miners, if a majority of the traffic is going through there. So that was something else that I had been looking at for that one in particular. Finally, what I wanted to talk about too today is the Bitmain on-rack Filecoin miner. Now, when I reported on this last week, I reported a a capacity of 4300 T, and I wasn't sure if that was terabytes or not. And well, boys, it's not even close to that. It's not at all. If we scroll down here, effective storage capacity is 430 terabytes. That's laughable for $40,000. That is an absolute joke. All right. Look at this. 430 terabytes. We can go over the rest of the specifications. You can see here, you do get two 480 gigabyte SSDs for, you know, OS, essentially. Probably RAID 10 them and install an OS and have 250 gigabytes of, you know, usable OS space. It's more than likely what's going on there. You do have an Intel Xeon Silver 4210R. And then you have two 1200 watt power supplies, and you do get 10 gigabit fiber connection. So here is, this does break down. It's not fully $40,000, right? The miner itself is going to be $19,131. Now, as a competitor, we could look at even an expensive option like the Storinator, thanks to Linus Tech Tips for driving the price of the Storinator way up. But we can build this up. Thank you, Linus, for increasing the cost of these damn things. But it is what it is. We could grab essentially a 15 bay here, get pretty competitive on the storage capacity. We could build out, let's go ahead and look at, I think we had 32 gigs of RAM, right? It's the silver, so it would be this model, 5,032 gigs of RAM, two 250 gigabyte SSDs. Technically would be a little bit more on the storage side for that, but not really that big of a deal. And then if we go into components, I think we can maybe change that. Is that here? The power supply is less. Okay. But let's go into, I mean, the drive cost is really what we're looking at, right? So if we went into, like, basically, this is what we want to look at. This is pretty comparable, though. 16 terabyte, 36, 16 terabytes, right? So we could go Seagate, Exos, 36 of them. It's going to run you around $12,000. And then, of course, you can, the unit's like what, 750 or whatever. And then we could upgrade. Well, those are, I don't think, yeah, we could upgrade those, I suppose. Just to be completely fair on that one. And we'll do nothing on the warranty. Oh, and then we would have to get a quote. Oh, there's a quote. 18,401. So even an expensive solution like the Storinator ends up coming out, you know, essentially cheaper than just the hardware cost, and you're not paying for these leasing prices and whatever, and you have control of your hardware. I suppose it's relative. If you take this into account where it's just the miner cost, which I don't even know if you can, I don't think you can just buy the miner. If you could just buy the miner, maybe there's an argument for, I have to log in, but maybe there's an argument for this, but I just don't think so at this point. All right, let's get into questions and answers for the day. Remember, super chats are never required, always appreciated, first to be answered. I do want to say thanks for some of the earlier super chats. Rondi, thank you for the $50 super chat. Much love back at you. I saw some earlier, but I hate how the chat doesn't ever keep them up. So if you just want to call out, if you had questions on any of those, we'll get to them. Jock says, at Son of a Tech, Ironfish CEO reminds me of Alameda CEO. Also, they admitted that Ironfish will be USA regulated. Now I hear they're changing the algo. Always on the cards. I think they do. They have to change the algorithm, right? Because basically they're looking at a hostile takeover of the market if it continues down this path. Trillion says use Retro Mike's pool for Kyla coin. Nice. Jock says at Tech. Ironfish name has some history referencing submarines. However, submarines made of iron are very likely to sink. Trillion says that Tech is one of the 3 people in the space that has my respect. Much appreciated, sir. 3 Mil says that Tech, can you tell us what you're mining at the moment? I am mining Bitcoin. Bitcoin, Ironfish, Dynex, and then I've been testing Rainbow Miner. So mainly Bitcoin. Retro Mike, thanks for the 99 cents. 100. Coastal says that's Tech 4.2% off. 420. 420, baby. With promo code SOAT over at coastalcryptomining.com. Did I say that right? I said that right. I'll link it. If I can find my damn. It's down in the description. I'll get another link for you guys though. Boom. Get 4.2% off your purchase right now at coastalcryptomining.com. And yes, they ship. They're one of the few ASIC mining suppliers I trust. And by few, I think I literally mean like one of 3. And one of them I can't even really refer you all to. So, one of 2. Oh. Dude, the nerd says, that's Tech. I'm switching wallets now. Do you have recommendations for Bitcoin? I mean, it really depends on how secure you want to get, right? You could do an offline wallet generator through a GitHub and, unplug a laptop or something, disconnect the Wi-Fi and run it on that or your desktop or whatever, then generate it and make sure you clean up all the files. Generate a paper wallet, throw that in a fireproof safe, go from there. If you want more of a warm setup, right now, all of the hardware wallets technically have potential for issues. I use Trezor personally, so you can go the Trezor route. I would right now avoid Ledger just because of their recent end user license agreement changes. But, technically the Tether, Trezor could have that issue too. Trillion says, at Tech single-handedly saved GPU miners so far this cycle. Kaspa and the Dynex, as everyone called them, scams. They are now chasing the profits after your research. Thank you. Thank you guys for watching, man. Chad, can you say what yours was? I can't scroll up that high. It won't let me. I wonder if I can access it. I wish there was a way in the studio to access it. That I don't know why that's not added in. Oh, viewer activity. Hold on. Hugo Down became a member. Thank you, Hugo. Chadwick became a member, said, it's my birthday. Happy birthday to Mr. Chad. How old are you? Oh, and then Chad did do a $5 super chat. Said Ecopool steals. Do not use them. They did some shady stuff with Pepe Pow. Proof of work. 40% pool fee behind the scenes. Crypto node pool supports this. Yeah, I don't know that situation for a fact, but for everyone to be in the know, thanks for letting me know. And then if you can get me proof, obviously I need Block Explorer proof of that. I can make a video on it. Oh, I didn't even realize I could do this now. I can type the heart. That's cool. Dude, the nerd, thanks for the $10 super chat. Says, thanks for all you do. Keep at it. We'll keep it going. I am not singing for Chad, Retro Mike. Get out of here. Thank you for the $1.99, Retro. No singing for you. Iron Grip says, how are the prices of power in the U.S.? You pay 32 cents per kilowatt hour. The U.S. is extremely varied in price for power. Now, I have insider info that I cannot share with you guys, but I can tell you that the Texas power is about to go down. That's the best I can give you. If you go subscribe to my locals, I do have potential for sharing with you guys the next projected, like through the end of the year, prices for power, as far as what ERCOT's going to be charging for generators through ERCOT regulation are projecting to charge through the end of the year. And we have come down a lot already. So we had gone up to, so I had gone up to 16 cents per kilowatt hour. I'm back down to about 10 cents per kilowatt hour right now. And my future projections are looking good, as mentioned. So I'm looking forward to the rest of the year. You go down with the $20 super chat. Thank you, good sir. Says, your ethics make your channel not only informative, but top tier. Thanks for what you do. Thanks for continuing to watch. And we're just going to keep moving forward, my man. Ronnie says, as Attack, has the heat affected your GPU farm? Since Dynex is low power, Texas heat been brutal. So right now, I'm actually only really mining with like 12 GPUs. The rest of my farm is running ASICs, and the GPUs and the ASICs are programmed to shut down between noon and 9 p.m. every day, and then they just run at night. This will be changing, as I was going to sell the ASICs, but I feel like not selling them right now, and I think I want to host them, so I'm probably going to host them. If you guys are interested in hosting for ASICs as well, let me know over on locals. I think my rate right now was between 8.2 and 8.5 cents per kilowatt hour hosted. So pretty competitive with up to a 5-year contract. Nick Kane says, at Tech, new coin called Max Chain could be worth a look at. ETH Algo. So I will tell you this. Every single ETH Algo coin that has released this bear market has ended up being a rug pull on the token side of things, and then the chain shut down. It's worth mining, right? But because of the ease of basically spinning up an ET hash coin, it is far more likely that an ET hash coin is going to be a scam than it is not. That's going to wrap it up for today, folks. Thanks for watching. Hit the like, comment, and subscribe, and notification bells down below so you're notified when we go live and when a new episode of Blocks will be coming out. We'll have a new episode of Blocks coming out tomorrow, and it'll be amazing. We do have one more super chat here. I guess if they keep coming, I keep answering. Says, XP1, thanks for the 100 RON. I think that's around $20 or something like that. So hell yeah. Says, subject which has not been touched for a while. What's your opinion about ETH? Well, as we reported on Blocks, the Ethereum developers publicly stated that decentralization is a meme and was only needed to initiate initial participation of the network. So it was all a lie the whole fucking time. So yeah, son of a rabid panda says, that's Son of a Tech. Any news on Matic? I have some ETH there, and I heard of Matic 2.0. I don't have any news on Matic right now. Boom. I need to not drink. I've actually quit these, but I did get one because I'm extremely tired today. But I need to. We're gonna quit them again. James Grover says he's got a 10-year fixed rate in Dallas at 4.2 cents per kilowatt hour. Is that all included? So, for example, like I'm at 4 cents, but all included is like 8 cents, right? Fees, etc. Power generation costs of 4 cents, right? All right, I'm out, boys.